afternoon. So today we will cover the Indian foreign policy. Fine. So what is foreign policy? Foreign policy, the policy by the independent country to establish and maintain its relation with other nations of the world. Fine. As we are living among the community of nations, so no country can live in isolation. In the present period, no country can live in isolation, that I can handle my own issue, I am self-sufficient, I need no interaction, I need no contact, I need no support from the outside world. This way no country can exist in the present global scenario. When the nation-state system emerged, this foreign policy became more organized. Maintaining relation with other countries was a time-stated initiative. Even during the mythological era, so emissaries were exchanged between countries. So starting from Ramayana, Mahabharata to the ancient Indian history, these emissaries were dispatched by Lord Ram to the court of Ravan, from the Pandavas to the Kauravas, from Ashoka to Sri Lanka to popularize, propagate Buddhism, when Ashoka sent his own son and daughter. Fine. So this is how the relationship is established and maintained. It is a naked truth that no country can live in isolation. Country try to establish and maintain relationship, and through that they use that good of his to further progress and enhance their closeness with the outside world. When you discuss about foreign policy of India, we can say that in the pre-independence period, Indian foreign policy was controlled by the British government, because India was not a sovereign country. India was under the British rule. Indian foreign policy was taken care of by the Britishers. But once the country became independent and joined the Committee of Sovereign States and became eligible to participate as an actor in international politics and relations, the need of an effective foreign policy was felt in the country, because the Britishers, who are maintaining or managing Indian foreign policy till that period, they left, and India has to follow its own or draft its own foreign policy, by which it will manage itself and its relation with other nations of the world. So the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, is called as the father of Indian foreign policy, because during his inaugural year, India started formulating its own foreign policy, and the deep imprint he left on Indian foreign policy and the basic principles enunciated by him during that period even continue to serve as the guiding principle, with minor shift as per the changing requirement of time in subsequent period till date. because the very basic foundation of Indian foreign policy remain intact. With change of time, change of circumstances, so changes have been initiated in foreign policy without completely diluting the solid foundation or the basic principles which were enunciated during the founding years of Indian democracy and by the first Prime Minister of independent India. Because foreign policy is being very dynamic, a living entity, so there is changes take place, orientation changes, approach changes in foreign policy because dynamism is added to it by this basic change. So you can say that with change in time, some new orientation has been given to our foreign policy, but the basic principle remain intact. Fine. Starting from the days of Jawaharlal Nehru to the present period of Narendra Modi, the foreign policy basic tenets remain same. As per changing time, changes has been introduced and that has enhanced Indian image in the global horizon. Right. So what is the objective of foreign policy? It is very well said that in foreign relation there is no permanent friend, there is no permanent enemy, there is only permanent national interest. It is very well said that in foreign relation there is no permanent friend, there is no permanent enemy, but there is only permanent national interest which is promoted through foreign policy of a country. So a country try to promote its own national interest through the instrument of foreign policy. Fine. So if you look at that, you can say, so primarily promotes national interest along with other objective like maintaining its sovereignty and territorial integrity. So through foreign policy, so one nation always try to maintain its own sovereignty because its relation with other countries make it a strong country with a good number of allies. So no other country ever dare to develop evil intention on it because that country knows that this country has a good number of allies, so its sovereignty is sacrosanct. I cannot violate it. In case I ever try to violate it, it will have its negative impact. Okay, so also its territorial integrity remain intact. Being an active member in the Committee of Nations with a good number of allies, no other country ever dare to have evil intention on its territorial extent, because it knows well that in case I touch or violate the territorial integrity of this country, it itself and its allies will retaliate, both physically and at the international public opinion formation level. That is why it became quite easy through a good foreign policy to maintain sovereignty and territorial integrity. The second point is to maintain good friendly relation with other nations in the world. Fine. This policy is promoted through the emissaries called ambassadors, diplomats, high commissioners to other countries who are deputed to establish and promote friend relationship with the other side. Fine. That is why foreign policy also helps in maintaining good friendly relation with other nations in the world. Good friendly relation with other nations of the world. Fine. Then third is to enhance its trade and commercial relation. Political relation or a strong political relation is always a stepping stone towards trade and commercial relations. If a country has good political relation with the political establishment of another country, under their circumstances, it became easier on its part to promote its trade and commercial interest. Why? Because a strong political relationship is a stepping stone towards strong trade and commercial relation. Fine. So foreign policy acts as a medium for this. The next is to increase its defense capabilities. You know, since the Second World War, so nations are trying to upgrade their defense capabilities through sophisticated weapons and arsenals in their reserve. Fine. So all the country are not that capable to develop latest arsenal or weapons. So the advanced countries having sophisticated weapons sell their defense equipments to other countries. In these circumstances, you can see if a country have good relationship with the country developing sophisticated weapons, it is it became easier to get that weapon from that country. If the political relationship is not that strong, it is not possible to get the most advanced weapons from foreign countries. Fine. Because the advanced weapons developed by few countries are demanded by all. But the country developing that weapon normally sell those weapons to the country with whom it has a close political link, with whom it want to share it. So under these circumstances, foreign policy plays an effective role, because if the political relation is strong, then it became easier. So if the political relation is strong, it became easier to access. It became easier to access the sophisticated defense technology. Okay, it became quite easier, and that is because the political relation is strong. So the sophisticated weapons developed by that country is made available to it, which in normal time may not be possible. Okay, it may not be possible in normal time. It was made possible because the relationship is strong, and that strong relationship acted as a stepping stone in getting this. Fine. Using this strong political relationship, the country is able to get its required sophisticated defense technology and equipments from another country. Like India purchasing Rafale from France, AWACS from Israel, drones from USA, sufficient defense equipment from USSR and present Russia. We are able to get all these weapons from different countries because we have a very good relationship with these countries. Fine. Then to maintain dynamic neutrality in the world. Okay. So the post-Second World War period, the world was divided into two power blocks. One block, or the capitalist block, or the Western block, led by USA, and the second one called the socialist bloc, the communist bloc, was led by the then USSR. Fine. Under these circumstances, it became very difficult and challenging for the countries to maintain neutrality in their foreign policy. It became very difficult to maintain neutrality in their foreign policy. But countries tried their best, country like India, so they formulated their foreign policy by which it is able to maintain neutral foreign policy without succumbing to the pressure of the two power blocks. During the high time of Cold War, India was able to maintain its independent and neutral foreign policy and remain far ahead of other countries. And this was possible because of its strong foreign policy. From Nehru to Modi, in between Rajiv Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, all these have contributed enormously to make India follow a strong foreign policy and establish and maintain its image around the world. Then the next is to safeguard the interest of its people living abroad. Fine. So, safeguarding the interest of the citizens living abroad, because in the globalized world, so no country can live in isolation. No country can live in isolation in the globalized world. Okay. So there is a movement of person from one country to other in search of employment, for doing business, for academic pursuit, and many other activities. So, if the political relationship or the diplomatic relationship between the countries are very cordial, that facilitates to protect the interest of its citizen living abroad. So we can take the example, the interest of the Indian students in Australia and in the present Ukraine was protected by Government of India because the Government of India has a good relationship with the neighboring countries of Ukraine, who facilitated to fly our students to India from their countries, from their airports, when the flight from Ukraine was interrupted after the Russian invasion. Fine. So in Australia, there are instances of attack on Indian students. So Government of India intervened to protect their interests. In the Gulf country like Iraq, the Indian nurses are stranded or taken, hijacked by the, kidnapped by the ISIS. Government of India intervened and bring them back. Many civilians in search of employment in the Gulf country and in European country, they find it difficult there, and the External Affairs Ministry of India play a proactive role in rescuing them, in giving them justice and bringing them back to India safely. And this was possible because we have a very strong diplomatic relationship with these countries, which facilitated to expedite the process and bring justice. Fine. Then to get maximum aid and assistance for development. So the present world, the developing or the poor countries are dependent on the financial support of the rich countries and the international financial institution dominated by the rich countries. Institutions like IMF, World Bank, etc. So They dominate, and they are dominated by the rich countries. The poor countries, so they depend upon their aid from the individual countries as well as international financial institutions. In case our diplomatic relation or the political relation is strong, so it facilitates them in getting better deal on easier terms and conditions. Fine, which is quite facilitating in this context. Fine. So you can say this, that this facilitates the relationship between the two sides. Okay. Okay. Then comes the next one. It is about ensuring energy security. You know, India is a energy hungry country. India is a energy starved country. From fossil fuel to the nuclear fuel, we depend upon the outside supply. From the OPEC countries and from the non-OPEC countries, we import huge quantity of petroleum and natural gas. Okay, we import in huge quantity. From many African countries, we purchase radioactive fuel. Okay, if our relationship with these countries are good, then it became quite easy to receive those energy materials from them. You can take an example. Presently, India is able to get cheaper petroleum or crude petroleum from Russia, because in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, so Russia came forward to supply oil to India at a cheaper rate, and India, bypassing the international warning, decided to purchase it from Russia. So that is what they are able to get it. Fine. This helps in getting the materials and supply. Okay. So this in broad you can say is the objective of the foreign policy of a country in general and India in particular. Okay. The basic principles of Indian foreign policy. Okay. What are the basic principles? First is non-alignment. Indian foreign policy is based on non-alignment. That means when India formulated its foreign policy, okay, it was the period of bloc polarization. It was the period of bloc polarization. And in the period of intense bloc polarization, okay, in the period of intense polarization, so intense bloc polarization, okay, in the period of intense bloc polarization, it is very difficult to remain aloof from the drag of the power. Okay. Still, what happened? So India tried to follow a policy where it will not align with any of these ideologically differentiated power blocks, rather to remain independent and follow its own foreign policy. That is what India has done. It always followed its own foreign policy independently. Right? Okay. So India is a founder of the non-alignment movement. Okay. The founder of the non-alignment movement. And this movement has grown substantially to reach around 120 countries who agreed to follow the policy of non-alignment in their foreign relation. This is not a mean achievement, you can say. Fine. This is not a mean achievement. Okay. Because it is the policy that led India to independently follow it. Okay. Then anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism. Fine. Anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism. Okay. So with the Second World War, colonialism came to an end. But still there are colonies. Okay. Okay. So colonial legacy is going to be a history, but it takes time. But India during that period followed a policy of anti-colonialism. That means it never supported the colonial intention of countries. It never supported the colonial intention of countries. Okay, so it was against that. Neither it had the own colonial intention, nor it ever tried to promote the colonial intention of any other country. That is what was Indian policy during the formative year. Fine. Then imperialism. What is imperialism? Imperialism is the tendency to build empire. To build empire. Okay. By annexing the territory of others. India was strictly against this. Neither it had any imperialistic tendency nor it was willing to accept the imperialistic tendency of any other country. Fine. That is what. Fine. Then opposite to racism, Indian foreign policy opposed racism. Racism, or the policy of racial discrimination, was followed during the post-Second World War period and even before that by some countries when they justified that some people belonging to a particular race are born to rule and others are born to be ruled. This is the policy of racism or racialism manifested in the extreme form of apartheid prevalent in the Africa, against which the iconic African Congress leader African National Congress leader Nelson Mandela fought for more than 3 decades. So India was against any such racial discrimination. Then faith in peaceful coexistence. India always have trust on faithful coexistence. Okay. Because the land of Gandhi and Buddha, or the land of Buddha and Gandhi, is always an apostle of peace. So in the long run, it wants to promote peaceful coexistence and cooperation with all the nations. Then faith in UNO. United Nations was created prior to Indian independence. Fine. The basic principle of Indian foreign policy touch on faith and respect to United Nations, because through the joint effort of member countries, this UNO was created. Okay. It is a voluntary association. If we follow the principle, okay, then it will be easy to maintain peace around the world. That is why Indian foreign policy advocated for respect to United Nations, because if we respect the United Nations, then it will be easier for others to cope with the global situations and live peacefully. Because it has been created with the sole purpose of maintaining peace and security. Maintaining peace and security. Support to disarmament. Okay. Support to disarmament. Okay. In the post-Second World War period, arms race became very prominent. What became prominent? Arms race became very prominent. As arms race became prominent, the world was pushed. The world was pushed to the threat of insecurity. Okay. The sense of insecurity increased through the arms race. Fine. Through the arms race, it was enhanced through the arms race. But after building so much of weapons, good sense prevailed and they decided okay. So when the disarmament became the buzzword, okay, when disarmament became the buzzword, so India was in the front promoting disarmament. That is why disarmament or reducing the armament from the stock was the policy of the government of India through its foreign policy. Then comes peaceful use of nuclear energy. You know, atom has plenty of power. It all depends upon how it is used. Okay, whether for constructive purpose, okay, or for destructive purpose. So India always promoted that nuclear energy should be as much as used for civilian purpose, not for weaponization. That is what support to peaceful use of nuclear power. And last not the least is the issue of Panchashila. Panchashila remain the guiding principle of Indian foreign policy. Okay. What is Panchashila? Panchashila as the guiding principle of Indian foreign policy emerged during the relation between India and China. But in subsequent period, this Panchashila became Indian ideals, Indian ideals for foreign relations. Fine. What this Panchashila mean? 5 principles. Okay. Of peaceful coexistence and cooperation. What they are? Okay. Mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. mutual non-aggression, okay, non-interference in each other's internal matter, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. These are the 5 principles of Panchashila enunciated as the principle of Indian foreign policy, or the famous Panchashila principle. It became very popular part of Indian foreign policy. Fine. The principle which were enunciated in 1954 remain valid even today, remain effective even today, popular even today. Okay. After more than 70, around 70 years, that is what its oath each. Fine. Then moving further, the factor and circumstances that influence the determination of the basic principle of Indian foreign policy in the late 40s and early 50s, and India formulated them, include Cold War. In the post-Second World War period, the Cold War was a major development. Cold War is a period of intense armament built up with resorting to war. It is a phase of intense armament built up fine, but without recourse to war. Okay. So that Cold War polarized the countries under 2 blocks. Polarized the countries under 2 blocks, which was a condition, okay, for influencing Indian foreign policy. Right. Then bipolarization. So bipolarization is a situation when the entire world was dominated by 2 power blocks: the capitalist bloc led by USA, the socialist bloc led by the then USSR. Fine. During this fine, phase of intense bloc polarization, it was very difficult for the newly emerging country to maintain their independence existence. So under the circumstances, okay, so India and foreign policy was influenced. Okay. Then comes formation of military alliances. During the period when India formulated foreign policy, okay, it was the period of military bloc polarization and formation. Okay. Like NATO and Warsaw. Okay. But India decided not to be with anyone, rather follow its own independent foreign policy. Joining in a military alliance will dilute India's image as a peace-loving country. So India neither joined the NATO nor the Warsaw Group, rather promoted to maintain its independent military existence with assistance from other country without joining the military umbrella. Fine. So then come the ideological struggle. The same period there was ongoing ideological struggle between capitalism and socialism. India decided not to be aligned with any of these ideological struggle, rather remain neutral to this ideological struggle by keeping itself aloof from this. Arms race to acquire more and more sophisticated weapons was going on then. And that can be cited as a reason or as an influence or influential circumstances for Indian foreign policy. And lastly, the evils of imperialism and racism also influence formulation of Indian foreign policy. Fine. So, under these circumstances, India formulated and carried out its foreign policy. Situation has changed globally. Regionally and nationally. It has changed. So, USSR has disintegrated. World changed from bipolar to unipolar, with America being the sole superpower. At present, there is another transformation. From unipolar to the world is shifting towards multipolar, with multiple power centers emerging in the world. Right. With multiple power centers emerging in the world. Fine. So that needs a recasting of Indian foreign policy. That needs a recasting of Indian foreign policy. Okay. United Nations has get its role degraded in the changed circumstances. NAM created in the period has lost its significance. But Indian foreign policy is continuing. And the time has come when India's global image has seen lot of improvement, because the foreign policy goals set by India and the achievement by India in this domain have enhanced Indian image around the world. So, in the emerging environment where old friendship have become meaningless and even a NAM has not been that credible, India has changed its strategy to maintain strategic and economic interest in the international sphere. In the new millennium, economy has emerged as the most crucial factor in foreign relations. India's adherence to peace and non-violence neutrality has been intertwined with the changing reality of economy, energy, science and technology, and has brought India to the center of the world politics by continuity in its foreign policy. This has been promoted by a strong and stable political system. So in the coming classes, we'll take up the foreign policy of India under different prime ministers and how the transformation has taken place. Thank you for watching.